Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got an extra special guest and very good friend of mine that I actually met at an event, I think last year. But that is Patrick Wood. He's the author of Technocracy News and Technocracy Rising. He's also got a new book that's going to be coming out, and he is going to be at the Red Pill Expo, which I'm going to leave information for that below. That's something that I'm even thinking about attending, but it's there in Bozeman, Montana in June 23rd and 24th. Great event to get tickets at, all kinds of speakers. I know you're going to be there. But Pat, would you just tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and some of the speakers at the expo?
Well, absolutely. I've been tracking globalization for over 40 years now, if you can believe it. You can see the gray hair that I've got. I earned that along the way. And I started out writing years, like in the 1970s, with the late Professor Anthony Sutton. That's where I got my start on tracking the Trilateral Commission, the New International Economic Order, the New World Order, and things like that. And here we are all this time later. Now I discovered a few years ago historic technocracy, which ties into my original studies with the Trilateral Commission. And, you know, it's expanded my horizon significantly, let me put it that way. And so I'm trying to connect the dots with people. That's why I write my website, technocracy.news. It's a journal of stories from around the world that pertain to technocracy. And my book, Technocracy Rising, of course, connects all the dots between the original iteration of the Trilateral Commission and everything that we see going on today with the United Nations, for instance, Sustainable Development, 2030 Agenda, the New Urban Agenda. It never stops, it seems like. But these are critical stories that are missing the headlines. As you know, they need to be discussed in public, and I really thank you for your willingness to kind of put this stuff out on the table. People need to understand what's going on.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of the times the stuff at the United Nations gets ignored. You're never going to see it in the mainstream media. And it's something that really needs to be talked about because they're pushing, like you said, the globalist agenda in our school systems and starting, from babies on up, if you will, until they're here, until they're brainwashed to think that, George Orwell 1984 mentality. Now, can you tell me what are some of the latest United Nations agendas that are going ignored? We know there's 17 goal agenda, but what are some of the things that are happening right now that are getting overlooked in the mainstream media?
The biggest thing that I see, the big picture, is that there was three major events at the United Nations that were orchestrated together. They weren't just independent things. Like, for instance, the climate change agreement in Paris in 2015. That was one thing. But right before that, you had the 2030 Agenda Conference in September. And then last year, you had the Habitat 3 conference in Quito, Ecuador. These three, and that produced the New Urban Agenda document. These three events were orchestrated, I call it a troika. They were orchestrated together to push forward to the next 10 to 15 years to transform the world. Deep transformation, they call it. Basically, they're re-engineering society. They're re-engineering our cities. They're re-engineering our rural areas. Actually, all the people that think they're safe, that moved to the rural, out in a rural house somewhere, I wish that was me, but they're all going to be assigned to a global, to a city. And they will fall under all the regulations and all the rules and stuff that they're going to put in place. And the United Nations is just racing right now to make this stuff happen, to put this agenda into effect, especially in light of the populism movement around the world. Like in our country and in Europe, they're experiencing it as well. The United Nations is racing to implement all of their agendas. And it's not just one agenda. You can't say, well, it's Agenda 21. It's much bigger than that now. It's comprehensive, it's pervasive, it's the worst case of crabgrass your lawn ever had. And it's spreading throughout the world.
Now, I've read a couple of sites. I think it's called America 2050, where they show everyone merged into these mega cities. Like I think they had 11, if I'm quoting that right, but 11 different mega cities that they want to push people into. And like you said, they do plan on assigning us to certain cities. Now, with Donald Trump in office, I know he's talked about cutting the funding to the UN, though it hasn't officially been done, or at least, widening the burden there. Do you see a kink in their wire or their agenda, or is it going to continue to press forward?
I wish I could say yes to that, but I can't. I see no awareness within the Trump administration at this point of the agenda, of the large agenda that the United Nations has. And I should be really clear on this. The head of climate change 2 years ago said in a press conference in Europe, blatantly, pointedly, straight out, she said, we're going to replace capitalism and free enterprise, period, with sustainable development. This is an economic term. She said, we're going to replace it. We have an intention to do it. We have a timetable and we have the means and we're going to do it. And she made no bones about it. Now, for anybody that likes freedom and business and, you have a business, whatever, those are fighting words. That's a declaration of war on the West. And I see no inkling whatsoever that anybody within the the Trump administration understands what the program really is and where it's come from and where it's going. I just don't see it. I'm looking every day, by the way. I want to see it. I really do. I want to see it, yeah.
Now, and I know I'm just hoping and praying. Now, when you say that they want to eliminate free enterprise, eliminate capitalism, and get rid of that and replace it with sustainable development, what does this sustainable development program look like?
Well, this is the essence of technocracy. This is why I wrote the book Technocracy Rising, to demonstrate that technocracy and sustainable development are essentially the same thing. It's warmed over doctrine from the 1930s. This is not new, but it's a resource-based economy, number one. Number two, it's based on energy, not on currency. Energy is the controlling factor for these people. So you see all of the cap and trade, the carbon credits, the carbon footprint stuff that's just everywhere you look today, right? This is all an expression of historic technocracy. And a resource-based economic system means, by the way, that the scientists and engineers will be the ones who control all of the resources on the planet. That's what they want. They want to control everything. So they say, well, we're going to control all the resources, and then we're going to control all the consumption as well. In other words, we're going to tell you what you can consume, according to our balanced model of resources. We'll tell you what you can consume, and we'll make sure you get that, at least that much. And likely in the end, you pay for it with some sort of energy currency rather than supply and demand type currency that we know today. So, if your grass is too big out there in your yard, I don't know what kind of grass, but if you have grass, your yard is too big for your neighborhood, and they figure, you're only allowed to have this square foot of lawn. You need to take some of that lawn out, or else we're going to penalize you because your carbon footprint is too high. This kind of micromanagement, Lisa, it's hardly any other word that you can use for it. It's satanic. That's all I can say. It's just absolutely satanically inspired. And they're busy doing this all around the world and in America too. There's not one town or locality in America today that does not have some expression of this agenda, this United Nations agenda in it. And it continues to inundate every day. People, citizens, and local communities are still, by and large, sound asleep.
Wow.
That's changing a little bit. It is changing. There are some communities that are really engaged, but I'll tell you what, we need, as a community, as communities across America, we need to engage these people head on, nose to nose, take off the gloves, name names, take pictures, whatever, and name and shame these people and say, look, this is America. If you want to destroy America, you go over to Afghanistan or something, but you're not going to sit in here in our country and destroy our country from within with your anti-American policies. That's what we need to say.
Right. I agree 100%. And here's the thing too. I mean, I think when you think of, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Obviously, they've gone above and beyond that, and they want an ultimately controlled, limited population. I know they want a depopulation, but here's the thing: it's all based on a lie. It's all based on the global warming sham, and so people are believing this, lie, if you will, of global warming, cooling, or whatever they want to call it today. But they have that at the root, and they're saying, okay, the solution to the world ending, because that's what global warming will do, is that you switch the money of where you're sending your money into more green policies and sustainable development policies. And this gives them the ultimate authority over your life. But see, they're doing it in the name of saving the world. And see, this is what has a lot of people fooled, is a lot of people go on to this agenda. There's obviously a fine line. I mean, we need to recycle, we need to take care, of the earth, but not the lie that the globalists have twisted it into. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, there's the globalist at the top of the heap that everybody looks at, like the Rockefellers of the world and the Rothschilds and so on. And not to say that they're not important, they really are. But the technocrat mind that is asserting itself below that level, these people are by and large invisible. But their own definition of themselves back in the 1930s, this is a direct quote from their magazine. Definition: technocracy is the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population. You see lots of stuff in that definition. It's the science of social engineering run by them according to their scientific method, quote unquote. In other words, data-driven, science-driven management of society. Nobody asked the people if they want to do that. Nobody did. But these people think that they single-handedly, because science is, wow, it's like a god, because science is always right, and science, they say, is always settled, which we know it isn't. But they say that, and then they say, well, you need to just let us do it, because after all, we are scientists and engineers, and we have the PhDs, and you basically are an ignorant little ant and know nothing. I get pretty offended at this kind of mentality.
Yeah, me too. Where do you see us headed within the next year from now?
We're going to see a huge rise in artificial intelligence being applied in situations. We're going to see a huge rise in robots armed with artificial intelligence taking over jobs and, in some cases, almost entire industries. In the next 10 years, experts are saying 50% of current jobs will be taken over by robots. How can you cope with that? This is really happening. The statistics are already there to back this up. But if the current job pool that we have today in the world and in our country loses 50% of the available jobs to robots, I'll tell you what, there's a whole lot more people. How can these people stay out of work? Well, here's what's happening. You're going to see an increase in talk about universal basic income. That is just paying out the money to everybody in society, a base income, to take care of all the people that are out of work, that are going to riot if they don't get something in hand. And you know what? There was a TED Talk the other day. That's TED, the big TED Talk. And this guy got up and spoke about universal basic income and how it was coming, why it was needed, why it was necessary. Lisa, he got a standing ovation from this TED crowd. It's a big crowd. Standing ovation for suggesting that we need a universal basic income to take care of all the jobs that are going to be lost.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. This is equivalent to modern day slavery. You can't say it any other way.
No.
It's slavery. It's put them on the reservation, whatever, put them on a plantation, give them a subsistence wage, whatever, so they won't riot, and just keep them controlled as wards of the state. This is not the America we signed up for.
No, and that's socialism, if you will. I mean, if they want that, move to Venezuela. But
Really?
oh, that makes me sick to my stomach, because I mean, I don't know, whether the people standing in the crowd really understand what the guy is talking about. So, I mean, to a point, I feel half of America is just truly dumbed down. I mean, who in their right mind is, let's give them all a minimal pay, if you will, make them wards of the state. So now these are people who can easily be controlled by the commanders in chief that are ruling things from behind the scenes. Why? Because they're getting a handout. Why? Because they're being fed. That's their feeder. You're not going to bite the hand that feeds you, so to speak. And so that's what they're doing. And that's a scary place for in America. I mean, we could kiss, the ability to make, a lot of money goodbye, or the ability to have a good living, or the middle class goodbye, if they ever implement something like that. That makes me sick to my stomach, why anybody would even stand for that.
It should make any American sick to their stomach, because, the America that people grew up in, you're younger than me for sure, but we grow up in America where we have these preconceived ideas of what America is and what we want it to be. And I think the broad base of America, across Democrats and Republicans, we have a common shared value. I really believe that, even though we might differ in politics. We have a common shared value that this is our country, this is where we live, and this is where we want to be prosperous. This is where we want to be safe with our, growing up with our children and stuff like that. These people are coming in under the name of saving the world. They swear they're going to bring peace and prosperity. But if you look at their agenda, like stuff we're talking about, you get down into the details of their agenda and you realize it's even worse than a political lie like Obama gave us in 2008. It's even worse than that, because these people, the policies they're implementing, will destroy the world. It won't help it at all. It's going to destroy the planet. So this is a sham of global proportions. I don't know, use universal proportions. It's a scam that's being implemented, a mental scam that's being implemented from the top down. People are buying into it. We just had all these May Day parades, and you had thousands of people in the street carrying signs. I listened to some of the interviews on the local news where they went out and talked to some of these demonstrators. I've never heard a bigger mouthful of ignorance come out of somebody's mouth than what's coming out of these. They have no clue. They've adopted it like a religion. They don't know the facts. They don't know who's perpetrating this stuff about climate change. And they're just regurgitating the stuff like a catechism, like they went to church and learned a catechism or something. It's a religious experience to them now. And they're not, they're just like crazed, like, you got to do it or we're going to punch you in the face. It's really, America's bought the lie, and except for people like you and I that would get out and confront the lie, and who's going to set them straight, Lisa?
Yeah. And that's why I encourage everybody, go to things like the Red Pill Expo. I know you guys have Lord Monckton. You're going to be there, John B. Wells, multiple others. And these are people who are very educated in Agenda 21, sustainable development, and all kinds of areas. So that's why that's why I went to the last one you guys had, and I just attended and had a blast. But stuff like that, that's where you get educated. You can bring others to get educated. Not only that, but on YouTube, you've got a YouTube channel, right? And I've got a YouTube channel. You have one?
Podcast.
A podcast, yeah.
I use podcasts.
There you go. Okay, you got a podcast. I'll leave that below too in the links. But, and so the only way to get this information out, because they're not going to share it on mainstream media, and the way we have to wake up these snowflakes and millennialists and people that have been brainwashed for multiple years, and I'm part of the millennialists. I'm the later in, but that's, part of my generation, and we've got to wake them up because they're schooled over and over again. And here's what I kind of did a report on this a while back, but in a nutshell, really, I think that they think we're all going to die. Like, if we don't get sustainable development, the world's going to end. And so that's kind of what the colleges have them convinced to believe. Who is it? Al Gore with his lies, we're all going to die in 50 years or whatever nonsense that he wants to push. But these are the kinds of things that they're eating up like candy. And, one day in the future, after they've implemented everything, oh, looks like we were wrong. Or, oh, we saved the world. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Arizona now, Arizona State. I went down there the other day just to check it out because I live in Arizona, as you do. I went down to check it out. Arizona State is now considered the #1 school of sustainability in the country. They have a department of sustainability. It's a 4-story building, and you can actually graduate with up to a PhD in sustainability from ASU, and it's infected all of the other colleges, of course, with their sustainability garbage. This is just amazing. This was right under my nose. I never saw it. This is more or less conservative Arizona, and here we are. A university took a left turn some years ago, but this whole business of sustainability with sustainable development has permeated our education system, has permeated our communities, has permeated our counties, our states, the laws and stuff that we have in place. And except that people would get out and just start kicking some keister, it ain't going to change. And we need to do this. I mean, I've been tracking this, Lisa, for 40 years. I want to say 40 stinking years, but they've been some good years. 40 years I've been after this, and nothing has changed. And if Anthony Sutton, my co-author, who was a research fellow at the Hoover Institution, by the way, at Stanford for a number of years, if Anthony Sutton were here with me to share a stage, I think he'd be about 90 by now if he was alive. If he was here, I know there's only one thing he would say about our work on the Trilateral Commission back in the late 1970s. He would just stand there and say, I ain't saying no more, but I'm going to tell you one thing. We told you so. That's all he'd say. We told you so. And here we are. You had a chance. You were clearly warned. The information was out there. It was analyzed, sliced, and diced, and put out where people could get at it. And you were warned and didn't do anything about it, and that's where we are. I don't want to see that repeated again. Okay, we are where we are. But now the warning goes out again. Folks, the flag is flying upside down in America. We need to call Mayday. And it's only us. There's no cavalry coming over the hill. That was only in the westerns.
Right.
There's nobody coming in. There's nobody coming in to save us from a foreign country. Like, we don't have a NATO here, right?
Right.
It's just you and me, Lisa. And our neighbors and our friends and our family. People like us, we're the only ones that can stand in the way of this. And if we don't do it, where we're headed towards is scientific dictatorship, and it's coming like a freight train.
Amen. And, I second that. And now is the time, you, me, people out there listening, now is the time to spread the information, get it out, stand against any Agenda 21 policies that they're pushing through in your school systems, in your colleges, or wherever. But make your voice heard today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow will be too late. So with that, Patrick, can you share any website information if people want to follow you, check you out, any of that?
Sure. My website is technocracy.news. And of course, my book is available on Amazon as well as my website. I like to send out autographed copies that people buy from me. It doesn't cost any different, I don't think. But that's enough for that. They can get on the email list and get a regular digest of articles. But I do want to just say one thing about Red Pill Expo that's happening up in Bozeman, Montana. The banksters took over Jackson Hole, Wyoming. You know that, right? That's where the banksters go, the central bankers of the world go there to have their big mucky muck confab. We said, look, okay, you can keep Jackson Hole, you turkeys. We're going to Bozeman. We're going to Bozeman where the air is clean and the scenery is beautiful, and we're going to kick back and discuss this stuff. And we're bringing people together that you've never heard before in the same place. like G. Edward Griffin, who's in his 80s now, by the way. The guy's amazing. He wrote the book, Creature from Jekyll Island, that exposed the Federal Reserve System. We've got Ty Bollinger coming, that's just been doing fantastic work on the truth about cancer, the truth about vaccines. We've got Craig Recker from CFAC coming. He's in Washington. The guy's absolutely fantastic. Sheriff Richard Mack from Arizona is going up. We've got Dan Johnson, a young activist, 24 years old. You gotta have this guy in your program sometime. He is just dynamite for a young guy. My hat's off. We got John B. Wells, who's going to be our MC. Wow, how cool does it get? We've got Alex Newman coming from Europe to speak to us on education. Anyway, the list goes on. We got just a great group of speakers. This is going to be the networking event of the decade. I really believe that. The people that are coming to this, we're not going to have thousands, but the people that come to this they're going to have an opportunity to network with some of the pillars of, let's say, the truth movement. And I don't mean in a weird sense, but like truthers or something, but people who have been used to cracking the eggs of lies over the years. And it's going to be great. And there's a lot of people coming that aren't speakers who are in the same league, right?
Oh, yeah.
As these people. So it's just going to be a gold mine of networking for people, who want to meet some of these folks, find out what they're really like, get some of their material information, books, literature, whatever they have. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great time. Not terribly expensive. It's only a 2-day conference, and it's only 90 miles from Yellowstone. So, some people are bringing a motorhome up. They're going to take the kids down to Yellowstone and, have a nice vacation. We're going up to Whitefish after that in the northern part of the state. And we're going to be attending the Western Governors Association meeting up there. We're going to mix it up with these people.
Amen. And that's why too I'm like attempting to possibly go myself, because last time I went to the other one you guys had, and I'm blanking. What was the name of that one?
That was the Freedom Force International Congress.
Yes, Freedom Force. Yeah.
Yeah. The title of the conference was An Inconvenient Lie.
Yes.
No, it was An Inconvenient Truth, I think it was. But anyway, it's about global warming in general. It was a great conference. It really was.
It was, but that's how I met you and Debbie and Lord Moncton and multiple others. So if you guys can, it's a great thing to go to. And make sure you go to Patrick's website. I'll leave links below. Check out his book. And well, thanks again for tuning in, and make sure you guys share this everywhere. It is time to get the information out today and not tomorrow. Well, thanks again for tuning in. This is Lisa Haven and Patrick Wood signing out.